5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow is deployed. Full course yellow is deployed.
Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to the final full course yellow for season 2023. Welcome to the chaos and all of the unplanned nonsense. We just thought we'd get together for one last time for 2024. As you can probably hear in the background, we've got a bit of an echo and a bit of a hiss, but we shall plough through that regardless. Thanks for joining us. We're just going to sort of wrap up the year. I think we'll just talk about some of our favourite things that have happened this year. Have a look back on the year in motorsport, and also probably have a bit of a talk about brief talk about what we're expecting, or at least what we're hoping for in 2024. So if you're joining us for the first time, Full Course Yellow is a sort of weekly get-together of some of the team behind In Pit Lane on Channel 31. We're on a break over the summer at the moment. But the plan is that all things, fingers crossed, all things going well on a whole number of fronts, we will be back in late February, early March for a brand new season of In Pit Lane. Joining us on the program, we've got Chris Ritchie is joining us as well. We've got Peter Johnson, Mark Jones, and of course Richard Outram as well. Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the program.
Evening, Brett.
Good evening, Brett.
Good evening
viewers.
Very good evening to all, and compliments of the season.
Yes, and Mad Cow Mark is joining us. Good evening to Mad Cow Mark, also another regular box. Good to see us on time. Yes, it's very good to see us on. Yes, Mad Cow Mark. That's he remembered tonight, so I remember tonight. That's and Russell Clark as well. That's about the. There we are. YouTube was tuned to it. So yes, the notifications. That's something. If you are watching us for the first time, head to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and click the notification bell. Not only does it allow you to find out when we post stuff on post new material, but also it does help out in terms of the algorithm in promoting the channel to other users as well. So we really appreciate it. As you can probably see, I'm not in the sling tonight, but trust me, the shoulder is still very broken. I've had that proven today at the hospital, so I'm still sort of in a very strange angle trying to operate things here. I have to do everything with this hand because I can't sort of move that one apart from doing that. That's about as much as I can do with that one at the moment. Anyway, let's check out the year and have a bit of a chat. Pete, we might start with you. Let's start with your memories of the year. I suppose you went to a couple of meetings. I think you went to the Grand Prix, and didn't you also go to the 500, the Sandown 500?
No, not this year. No,
you didn't go this year. That was last year.
Yeah.
What about Albert Park? I mean, huge crowd, a massive crowd. I managed to get there one day thanks to Mr. Maria at Sonic Racing. So thank you. I got a ticket for the Friday. Turned around, wandered around. Very impressive. It's always a very impressive sort of thing there. But I mean, you go every single day, every single year. What did you think of this year? How did it all come back together again?
This year was better than last year in that they didn't have the on the Sunday they didn't have the DJ, so we didn't miss a lot of what was happening in the pits. I understand why they do it for the people that are the casual followers, but in doing it last year, they kind of neglected those of us that really follow it and really want to know what's going on pre-race. But this year they didn't have the DJ, so that was good. The race itself was good, but the restarts were a bit of a shambles. But
it's always been chaotic. It's always been chaotic at the start of the year. I mean, because it's not the opening round anymore, but it is still early in the year, and everybody's still sort of dialing in and getting together. I thought that I really did think, although I understand that it has caused some problems for some of the local categories, and in particular S5000. The addition of Formula 2 and Formula 3 was a big winner with me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them a lot.
Oh, they were fantastic racing, the F2s and F3s, and
Yeah.
certainly I followed the series much closer than I normally have following that.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, apart from the fact that there were a few Australians in, including our mate Hugh Barter, but also Christian Mansell, young Tommy Smith, is it? Or Jack? I keep getting them mixed up. Tommy Smith?
Yes.
So they were
And
running.
somebody called Doohan, apparently.
Yes.
Oh yeah, some kid called Doohan, who actually won a couple of races. I think. How many races did he win? Did he win one or two, or more?
Well, he won the last race of the year.
Won the last
didn't
race. Yeah, and won it very comfortably too. It was a very dominant performance. His problem, of course, for next year is like a lot of people. It's like Teo Porcher and a few others. It's like where do you go from here?
And like Zach Best locally, but although we'll no doubt come back to supercars.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I'm going to Jimmy talking about the big echo. Yes, we've got a bit of an echo tonight.
Echo.
I think that's actually coming through. Chris, have you got any earphones with you? Because I think that's coming through at your end.
I'll try some. Hold on.
Because I think that I'll mute you at the moment while you're plugging that in.
Jack Doohan got 3 wins, 5 podiums, 3 wins, 5 podiums, 2 pole positions, 3 fastest laps,
and a partridge in the pear tree.
And 168 points for third in the championship.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, so he did a pretty good job. We'll just tune in Chris again and see if we've lost that. We've still got them. We've still got the fuzz there. We still got the there, but we don't have the echo anymore. So that's one good thing. But yeah, that there is certainly something loose in the system there, Chris. So perhaps when you're not talking, it might be an idea to mute. Just mute. Yeah, you can sit as you're fiddling around with it. It's making quite a lot of noise. So there's something loose in there. There you go. Yeah, when you're tweaking it, it dropped down for a second and then it comes back again. So there's a ground loop thing or something like that happening. So perhaps at the moment, just pop your mic on mute at the moment. And when we have a chat, when you want to say something, fire up again. But so Mark, you were watching on from far off Queensland. I mean, well, from a television point of view, I saw, obviously saw most of it on television. I was only there on the Friday. The one thing I thought about the Formula 2 and Formula 3 was that impressed me was just the noise. They were much better sounding than the Formula 1 cars.
Yeah, much better.
I enjoyed as much from the spectacle of the cars racing quite relatively closely with each other. It's for whatever reason, the Australian Grand Prix hasn't always been conducive to whether it's the Albert Park circuit or just the nature of the categories running in there, but hasn't always been conducive to close racing.
Well, they did of course make quite a few changes to the track. That was one of the things. It was also noticeable that it was the final, Australian Grand Prix for Andrew Westacott as the CEO of the Australian Grand Prix Corporation. I think he did a fantastic job, particularly to keep the thing in Melbourne for at least another 10 years. I think it's how long is it, Pete? How long is the
till 2035, I think.
2035. So so we've got more than 10 years and that'll allow them to make a few changes. And I know that one of the things that's being demanded is they're very keen on having some new pit buildings there. They're going to have to sort of find a way of doing that without upsetting the locals too much. They're also going to have to find a way of paying for it, seeing that the state is more than officially flat broke.
Yeah.
was going to. Not only has he kept it going for till 2035, but it eventually once it stops clashing with Ramadan, it's going to be the first. It's going to have a couple of years being back to the first on the calendar. So.
Yeah, well, it certainly makes a difference being the first on the calendar. Although apparently, in terms of the overseas ratings, the ratings this year were pretty good compared with previous years, because they thought not being the first race of the year that might cost them a few viewers internationally, but it didn't seem to. It seemed to go well. The problem that they've got is because it's later in the year. It's they've had to sort of move it back to a more traditional start time, because if they started at the 3 o'clock, I mean, by the time they get there's too bloody dark, and also the weather is starting to get a bit more dodgy.
And the ratings probably improved internationally, because I think that week where it is, where it's positioned now, daylight saving finishes in Europe. So
yeah,
And here too.
Yeah, well, they sort of stretched out the. They did stretch out the daylight saving to sort of cover the period of the Grand Prix, and to cover down here Moomba as well. That was another thing that because of course it was always sort of like in and around that first weekend. You had the first weekend of March. Second weekend is usually Labor Day and the Moomba Festival, which is still a thing apparently. I mean, I haven't seen anything much about it. It used to be so big, but apparently Moomba is still a thing. It still happens. So that was this year, and then the Grand Prix is coming down the track, and it's messed up a few things, including the Phillip Island Historic, where they're having that now on the long weekend. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that we've got no control over. That the date's going to be when the date is, regardless, and we just got to live with it. But Richard, your memories of the Grand Prix?
Well, it was from a television point of view. It was an action-packed affair. With wasn't it the Alpines both taking each other out?
Ran into each other. Yes.
Yeah. There was so much happening and so much controversy. That's what you want. Stir up the pot a bit. Get the ratings up. All they need to do is put a water cart out halfway through.
Well, there is that lake in the middle that they could pump it from.
Exactly, pumps.
A boat race.
Well, they did have a boat. I remember going down probably when I was about sort of 17 or 18, down to Albert Park for a Formula One boat race for like the outboards, the hydros. They raced around Albert Park, and it was quite a spectacle, and it'd be good to see that happen again, because I don't think they use the lake to its fullest possibility. I mean, there's I suppose though that they think that we'll leave it for the ducks and the swans, and because they're quite happy sort of cruising around, they don't care. So all
Formula
that
One
noise,
boat racing and duck all orange. Who could beat it?
Well, I must say,
the turning circle of Formula One boats conducive to running in the Albert Park Lake?
It's not very deep.
It's not deep, but it doesn't need to be. They certainly ran as I said, quite a few years ago, because they dredged it. Many years ago they did dredge it and get rid of a lot. But I suppose it's starting to fill up with a lot of silt and that again, because it's basically coming off of all the runoffs coming all over Melbourne. So it gets a lot of dust and silt and all sorts of things on. So if you don't dredge it pretty regularly, it starts to get very
Turns back into a quagmire.
Yeah, it has. And at one stage it was. At one stage, well before the Grand Prix came back, but there was a time when you'd go down there and the smell was just appalling.
Yeah, and I heard some advice given to one boatie. If your boat starts to sink, don't get off and wade.
Yeah. Well, you'd almost walk across it. without the pontoon bridge there. That's still going across the bridge is still a highlight. It's not as unstable as it used to be. It used to be quite chaotic, but it's still sort of quite the it's still quite the ride across when you walk over.
Wheelchairs aren't allowed on it.
I want to see one of these
They're
new
not.
electric
That's serious.
scooters.
They're not.
I want to see these new electric scooters running across the pontoon bridge. In fact, maybe they could use, because there is a championship for such devices. So
There is, yeah. I mean, in fact, they promoted it at one of the. I think it was at the British Grand Prix or something, because they had a few of the drivers take part in it as well. And it was quite the. They take it quite seriously over there. Yeah, limited because it was having I didn't know they were. I thought they were all the. I thought it was only the outboards there, but the 5 litre displacements would be a lot of fun there. But you could run the jet boats there. I mean, because they don't need a lot of water to run in.
if you tipped a supercar upside down and then stuck a propeller on it, I mean, they're 5 litre capacity.
Well, they used to be. That was the other thing that was there. It was the first opportunity we had to see in the flesh the new Gen 3 supercars. They ran at, well, of course, they ran at Newcastle. But we saw them, they entertained us over the weekend mostly by catching fire.
They have a new extinguisher for that.
Yeah, well, that was it. It was very entertaining, but I must admit, Silvio, down there they looked really good, and they sounded really good, and I thought, this is going to be great. This is going to be really. They've got a really good category now. They look good. They sound good. The field is very competitive. It's all very professional. We're going to have a fabulous year of supercar racing, and quite frankly, for me, it was an absolute dud. What about anybody else?
Oh, Bathurst wasn't so good. I was looking forward to a really great race, and they just spread out. They'll come together at the end, and they spread out. And no, they didn't come back at all.
The thing I liked about Bathurst was it ended up being a true reliability test.
Yeah, that probably won't be the case next year. Mark?
Well, they figure
I
it
tend
out.
to like them running like XLs, a bit of biffo,
Well, we'll get one or two wild cards back amongst the field this year. Now that there are a couple more cars. In fact, we've already had one of the new Gen 3 supercars retired. Of course, Brody Kostecki's championship winner is going to be sealed up and locked away, and so thank you. We enjoyed winning lots of things with it. So,
it was one hell of a year for one hell of a year for Brody. It was also it's also probably the year that everybody sort of like a lot of people overseas opened their eyes, and that was thanks to a guy called Shane Van Gisbergen going over and winning his debut race in NASCAR on the streets of Chicago. As a result, he's moving over there. You would imagine that Brody is probably sort of, he's certainly doing some extra races next year with Richard Childress Racing. Also, Cam Waters is going to be doing some NASCAR stuff as well. So I think that there's a few NASCAR teams in light of the success of the Giz are sitting there going, perhaps these guys, they know a bit of how to drive these sort of cars. We might bring them over for a few wild cards and a few road races. So
we could have like a Marcus Ambrose 225, where the entire field is made up of Antipodeans.
Yeah, well, I mean, Scotty's over there, and Marcus can come out of retirement. We could, I'm sure we could rope Scott Dixon and Will Power into it,
and drag a couple of guys over from IMSA, like James Allen and Matty
Campbell,
Matt's leaving IMSA.
Yes, he's off to World Endurance Championship. So
Scott Andrews is over there as well.
Scott's been over there. Yeah, but hasn't had as many drives this year as he's had in the past, and it's a shame because every time he gets behind the wheel of a GTE come GT3 car, he always does a really good job. And his most recent sojourn, he did very well again. So hopefully we'll see him have more opportunities next year. Have we heard what James Allen is doing at this stage?
Oh, I read it. I read it last week. It's just.
Yeah, I had. I'm assuming that like being that he's a European Le Mans champion. Okay, he's one of three, but he couldn't have done any more than he was required. I mean, he won Daytona, he won Le Mans, his class there.
What a win!
The Daytona drive was fantastic, and Daytona just around the corner, of course, as well. And we're going to see. Even more sports cars. We've got coming up this year. We've got Jenson Button making a return to full-time racing in the WEC. We've got the Lamborghinis from Sebring. They'll make their debut at Sebring. We've got BMW. We've got Alpine. They're coming in as well. We haven't seen the Peugeot's new design with the wing, but you would assume that they're going to be hopefully a bit more competitive, so that'll be good. So sports car racing is taking off everywhere, including here, because we've got GT4, the Mechachrome GT4 Championship here in Australia, or whatever. It's every single day they're releasing more news about more new cars, more new drivers. So it looks like that's finally taking off as well. And of course, the Bathurst 12 Hour is just around the corner, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that somehow I'll be fit enough to actually go there.
Matthew Brabham is joining the IMSA series.
Yeah.
And for next year.
I'm glad of that because he's a very good driver, Matt. He's another one who's done really well, but probably hasn't had the opportunities that he probably deserves. So yeah, good. That's good to see.
As you mentioned, the hypercar has been my personal highlight of season 2024, and the development both in the IMSA series and in the World Endurance Championship. It's been just so good to see so many, three times triple the number of entries in the top class of prototype racing.
Yeah, well, and one thing, of course, not in prototype racing, but in GT3, we'll see the new Mustang GT3, which is testing at the moment, is apparently doing very, very good times. Mad Cow Mark saying that he has a feeling the Mustang will dominate in supercars in 24. Certainly, they'll be a lot more competitive. I think they'll have to be, because already now Ford are sort of already saying, look, if this parity thing, if this wind tunnel, if this rather expensive wind tunnel work doesn't deliver the sort of results we want, we're only contracted until the end of 2024. And Ford Performance Racing overseas in the USA, they've got so many other things on their plate. They might just sort of turn around and go, do we really need to be involved in this? I mean, it's a very small market. Although today actually out at Calder Park of all places, the head of Ford Motorsport, or the head of Ford in the United States, was over driving, I think it was Cam Waters' car around Calder Park.
Yeah, the company president Jim Farley was at the wheel of Waters' Mustang.
Yeah, and he's very much a racer. He races historic cars. He races GT3. He races a few things, and he's come out to see what's left of the once proud empire here in Australia. And as a result, was out at Calder today with a few of the other Tickford racing guys, having a few laps, and he was suitably impressed, and hopefully they'll get some extra brownie points for the series from the head office.
Yeah, I guess they had along one of Ford's larger investments in Australia in the Geelong AFL Football Club.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were so closely related with Geelong, and I see they're very heavily invested in basketball now, and I think it's interesting that they've. I'm not sure what the situation is with the sponsorship with Geelong, with the footy club, whether that's still on, because the adverts.
They had them along at Jim Farley's run this week with the Mustang.
They've certainly done that. They've certainly done that in the past. Stuart and I went out many years ago to a similar sort of thing with Ford, where they had a lot of them. I remember Cameron Ling and a few of I think Gary Ablett Jr. and a few of the others at the time who did laps with various drivers, and they had a few sort of high profile Geelong people out there. So it would be good to see the relationship continue, because obviously, I mean, when they moved out, it was a hell of a blow to the town. I mean, because they were probably the major employer in the area. So yeah. But anyway, let's move into, I suppose. Well, Richard, what was your highlight for the year? Your motorsport highlight?
Oh, I think Formula One did pretty well. Oh no, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen was win in Chicago. That has to be the highlight. You could see it coming up, and they'll sort of like the American commentators were like patting him on the head from afar, going, "Oh, hasn't he just done well?" And I'm thinking, I think Shane's saving his tyres, and he's going to come back and nail you blokes.
That was the thing.
And they're all saying, I'll wait for the established guys. They'll show him a thing or two.
Yes.
James Allen, I apologise if I get the pronunciation wrong, is going to LMP2 to Dirk Queen, a French.
Yes. Queen. Yeah, and they've been fairly competitive. It's interesting that he's not staying at Algarve Pro, which is the team he's been with, but they've been very competitive. So it's good that he's got a drive in LMP2. Jared's saying that they've actually added some rear aero to the thing from VCAT and revised the front bar and added a boot lid. This was the thing that was going to come back and haunt them possibly, is that they were, I think they thought once they got everything into the wind tunnel, they would get some magic thing going. Oh my God, look how much more effective the Camaro is than the Mustang, and they might have come out and gone, well, actually, no, it's not. It's not entirely aero. Whatever's costing them the positions, or whatever's causing the problems in the race, perhaps it's not aero after all. It's not aero. They can't argue. Ford can't turn around now and say, "Oh, hang on. No, we don't. Now we need other things. Now it's like, you said that the problem was aero. You said we needed to put the cars into a wind tunnel and get some definitive numbers to make sure they were evened up. Well, if that means that there's added benefits for the Camaros as well, then they can't complain."
And as I was reading this year, as I was reading last week, the Gen 2 cars had the same issue in their first year. There was a disparity, and
well, you go back to 1993, and it took them, I think, roughly 2 years to balance the EB Falcons and the VP Commodores out. It turned out that the VP Commodore had a rather modest aero kit compared to the Falcon, and they just didn't get serious enough with. Well, in particular, the rear wing on the VP Commodore just wasn't thick enough. It was actually quite thin, and that gave that's what allowed Glenn Seaton and Alan Jones and John Bowe to dominate the '93 championship, and then they adjusted it too far the other way, and heading to Bathurst, we had that great duel between Scaife Richards and Greg Hansford with Larry Perkins for the win, and the Fords were fighting over third place.
I think what Mark said before about, Mad Cow Mark was saying about the Mustangs coming on this year. That's always the danger. I mean, you can have this sort of 1 year on, 1 year off effect. It's like, well, the Mustangs. We need to make sure the Mustangs are more competitive this year, and so we push them up, and suddenly the Mustangs are too good. It's like, oh well, now we've got to make sure the Camaros catch up a bit because they've lost a bit, and they leapfrog. So So it could be sort of 1 year on, 1 year off, 1 year on,
like
until sort of until something replaces the Camaro, which is increasingly looking like being some sort of Cadillac at the moment. That's certainly what they're saying in NASCAR right now. They're saying they believe that they're believing that the replacement for the Camaro in NASCAR is going to be a Cadillac coupe, and you would imagine that if they're going to run that, especially as they are going to finally introduce the Cadillac marque more formally into Australia, because they've been talking about doing that for years and years, sort of saying that this is once Holden went, it was like General Motors. The General Motors brand in Australia shouldn't be Chevrolet, because Chevy is sort of just too American, too sort of in the pickup truck with the dog and the gun, whereas Cadillac has sort of a certain style about it. It's like it's a Cadillac. It's a so
there's nothing American about the name Cadillac, is there?
No.
What's the name of the president's limousine? That's a Cadillac, isn't it? The Beast.
That's a Cadillac. Yeah. So.
Although I don't think they'll be racing that one.
No, you would hope not. Well, we will see. I'm hoping we will see a Cadillac racing in Australia. Have we heard, Richard, any updates on Geordie's car at this stage?
No, but he was actually at the Challenge Bathurst in a LMP2 Wolf, I think it was, from many years ago. I saw the car, didn't quite twig, I was a bit busy, and I didn't see him, unfortunately, but there was some nice shots of it on his Facebook page.
Yeah, because we're talking about the old American Le Mans series Cadillac, the North Star Cadillac that ran at the Adelaide.
Adelaide,
yeah. So Jordan Roddy has one of those. He sent the engine away to get rebuilt, and it was rebuilt, and it was on its way back. And hopefully, we will see it at some stage next year, perhaps at Phillip Island or something. But I hope we do see it at some stage racing in Australia. That'd be fantastic.
LMP 900, I think the original class was called.
Yeah, I think that was the original, because there was LMP 900 and LMP 600. That was sort of the LMP
675, which
675.
Oddly specific.
Yeah,
that was
it
the
is
weight.
a long way. Oh, sorry.
No, that was just the weight of the car. Yeah.
I was just going to say that it is a long way down the track to being completed.
Oh right, okay. So we probably won't see it this year, but nonetheless, sort of
Not this year.
there. So, Chris, what about you watching on mainly from television? I believe did you actually get to any tracks, or was it watching on television?
No, I never made it to any tracks this year.
You've been a bit busy.
I have been a little bit busy, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your memories for there? I mean, your motorsport highlight of the year that you can pick out?
Oh, Sandown quite a few years ago now.
No, but what about this year? I mean, you want anything that stood out for 2024 on the telly or anything?
No, not really.
Just about everything at all. Mark,
Yes.
what about your highlights for the year? Both from an international or television standpoint, or something you actually attended?
Well, I guess the highlight was Le Mans and Ferrari getting up for a win, which a slightly unlikely win, but they were the best on the day, and yeah, they took it to Toyota, and then took it to Toyota for the rest of the season. Although they were, but Le Mans was very much the highlight for them. But it was a fantastic to see, and particularly there with the weather affecting the race, it bunched the hypercar field up, and I loved Le Mans.
Well, we even had the Peugeots leading at one stage.
Well, exactly, yeah.
They seemed, that wingless design was very much designed around Le Mans. That was the thing that they were very keen on. But it's interesting that they've obviously now decided at the end of the year, Peugeot have sort of looked at it and gone, I think we've got about as much out of that wingless format that we're going to get, and if we want to be competitive anywhere other than Monza and or Le Mans, then we've really got to put a wing on somewhere. So be interesting to see how radical a change we see, how different that car's going to look. Is it going to look basically the same but with a rear wing, or are they going to make sort of other
I think it's
changes?
Going to be substantially different, yeah.
You'd have to think so, because that whole bodywork was designed to provide maximum downforce without the addition of the wing. Well, you see that once they put the wing on the back, and the rules also specify certain limitations as well. So whatever they add in terms of a rear wing, they're going to have to take off somewhere from underneath the car as well. So it's you would imagine it is going to be a very a substantially redesigned car, and we've seen the new livery for the Toyotas, or the black and sort of the Audi look, but it looks very good. It's a very good look for those cars. The Lamborghini is tested very quickly in the pre-season test for IMSA, so that's good as well. We've got Mick Schumacher and a few others racing testing the Alpine, which is getting good, doing good times as well. So yes, sports car racing next year is going to be spectacularly good, you would imagine.
And this is going to additionally be an option for some of our Formula 2 drivers who get to the top of Formula 2 and then can't progress into Formula 1 just yet. It's the hypercar is potentially going to be a waiting room for them.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think even Mick Schumacher sort of said that, like he was viewing it in that regard, that it was. He said he felt much more confident that he said it was much better to be out there racing in a real race with real cars and real drivers than doing anything in the simulator. Whereas young Doohan, he's sort of saying that no, I'll stick with the simulator. I'm going to concentrate on Formula 1, and I'm just going to do sort of whatever practice I can get and as much sort of simulator work as I can do. And it'll be interesting to see which is because you'd have to think that you're going to be a much better driver out there in the situation with cars that are still pretty damn fast and have still got lots of downforce and the rest of it, racing in amongst all those slower, in and out of all those slower GT3 cars, and with and teaming up with other drivers and having to compromise on car setup and all those other things that sports car racing provides. So I would think that I think it would be I think it's the ideal place for them.
Yeah, and the Alpine A424 has broken cover and is testing now as well. So for the new Alpine hypercar, that is.
Yeah, and it looks good. It sounds good. We've got a Honda in IMSA as well, and BMW testing. Mad Cow Mark, seen a video on internet of an EV charging with a diesel engine running to power. That's all over the place. you see that interesting as we got in the bottom of the in the ticker at the bottom that there seems to be a more and more of a push away in terms of what the FIA are pushing for in terms of so-called green motorsport. Formula E are now going to move. Well, they're now moving to a hydrogen fuel cell model, and everybody sort of more and more people are starting to talk about hydrogen as being a much more sensible way to go in terms of providing power one way or the other, whether it's through an internal combustion engine, which is something Toyota have been playing around with, or whether it's something like running fuel cells, which is what Formula E are going to do. So yes, I mean we'll check. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because I think they've realised the limitations of the lithium ion battery and also some of the dangers too. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, you see that all over. That was the thing of Formula E. When you went round to all the Formula E races, you went round the back of the paddocks, and there was just this huge bank of diesel generators, powering the clean green Formula E, and there's bloody diesel generators all over the place, spewing shit into the air. Yeah.
I guess the other personal highlight for me, as far as events that I was able to attend, I guess, was the ongoing redevelopment of Queensland Raceway. Every time I was there was something new to the place, and there's just so much energy about the place now, and my home away from home has become a lot more enticing place to be about, and we've had some pretty good racing up there up here this year as well. The Shannon series was brilliant to have back in QR again, and and plus, of course, I love my local enduro races, the XLs and the HQ versus Gemini enduro. Then and lots of prod sports racing, mini enduros as well, and it's QR is a great track really for modest endurance racing.
There's no doubt about Tony Quinn. I mean, whatever you think about him, one way or the other, he's a doer. He doesn't, when he says he's going to do something, he does it. And really, it was just sort of taking a real interest in the place, and it's the sort of thing that they could and should be doing out at Calder Park. But you do get the impression, when you have a look at. I mean, there is an awful lot to do at Calder Park, but you do get the impression that it's just, they're doing the basic minimums to keep that place. Keep the place running, and it's like it's had a bit of a clean up here and there, but it's still very rough. I know, just talking to some of the Formula SA, we had Formula SAE on the weekend, and talking to a few of the guys and seeing some getting some feedback from them, is they were saying that quite a few of them were saying, boy, this place is rough. This place is it's really, it's still not up to standard. It's a long way from being in a good position. Jimmy said before, I think I didn't put it up there, but he was sort of saying that, where are we? I think it was here. There we are. Sorry, no, it was Falcon DJ 17 saying quite impressed driving Calder a few weeks back. Track condition was quite good. Still was fun. Just needs a few extra ponies for the front straight. I think that's it. Most of the people I said the track was nowhere near as bad as they thought it would be. There are still sort of concerns about the coming onto the main straight with the drags, because even though they're not putting down the traction compound, it's still concrete. It's still very smooth. It's still very rubbered in, even from things like the off-street drags and all that. And once again, I mean, they were saying that once that water hit, once the rain came down, it was still like ice coming onto it. And the conditions were so bad, the RX8 guys from New South Wales, Rick Shaw and all those guys, they basically took a vote at one stage and said, no, we're not going to race our last races. It's just too much of a risk, too much risk of car damage. End of the year, nothing to gain. let's call it a day. So unfortunately, they didn't race, but it wasn't. There wasn't carnage or anything, but the feedback was that it was very, very slippery coming onto the main straight, and until they can totally separate the circuit from the drag strip, that's going to happen.
It's they're not as compatible as many people assume they would be, drags and circuit racing.
Well, it's now. I mean, track preparation is now like in the old days. It was not because you didn't have the sort of track preparation, and then when you did have sort of things like VHT, they'd put it down sort of at the start for the first sort of 50 feet or something. Now it's such a science. I mean, the whole track is being prepared. There's VHT down, for a good slab of the first half of the track. That's why you're seeing sort of things like sedans and all that running into the top door slams, that running into the 5 seconds. That was the sort of they were the sorts of times that top fuel dragsters were doing 10, 15 years ago, and now you've got pro stock cars and top door slammer and competition eliminator, supercharged outlaws, all these cars, and the bikes also running into the fives. Because they've just got so much traction now on a really well prepared track. They've got more. They're able to put out more and more power, and the reason they can put out more and more power is they can actually now get a lot of it down to the track. So
and they're kind of dependent on it now too. Like it's actually becomes mechanically dangerous to run without it.
Oh yeah, you couldn't possibly run it. That was one of the things I think is the problem at Cold. Like talking to Kim Jane, he was sort of saying, "Look, we want the drags back. We like all they're more than welcome to come. All they have to do is come, as long as they don't put that shit on the track, we're right." Well, if they don't put that shit on the track, they don't go down the track. It's as simple as that. So the only solution is going to be a dedicated drag strip, and that's going to be, and the simplest way to do that is to bring back the old glow weave corner, to make what is now the return road come pit straight. It's very wide, that area, more than wide enough you would think to be the main straight for the circuit, and then past the finish line for the drags, ease it back onto the circuit itself. I believe that I was told that according to Andrew, the runoff area is sufficient because they're pretty much gone back as far as they can. But they're saying no, the runoff area is sufficient there, so they could have top class drag racing back there again and get huge crowds. But the problem is the weather. It's like Rowan Harmon was saying. He said you spend 2 weeks preparing the damn circuit or preparing the strip. You bring in people come from all over Australia and even internationally, or for a really big event, and then sort of it pisses down raining for about 4 hours, and it's like, okay, guys, everyone go home. There's nothing more we can nothing we can do anymore.
Welcome to Speedway.
Yeah, same thing.
So, although they can probably get. Well, they're using water burnouts at the moment, but with no VHT. But I mean that you can't do that for top fuelers and proper race cars. They're limited at the moment. I think it's anything that runs under 10 or something at the moment is not allowed to run at Calder Park. So we don't see any of the real competition cars there. It's essentially just all off street stuff. And roll racing, and once again, that's pretty much all off street stuff as well. So the only place you've got at the moment, like close in any way close to Melbourne, is Heathcote Park, and they're getting good fields. They're booked out pretty much every single weekend. So if you want to watch some drag racing over the summer, head up to Heathcote Park almost any weekend, and you can pretty much guarantee something will be on up there. And it's just a shame it's so far away, and it's because once you get there, the track itself is nothing wrong with the track, nothing wrong with the facilities. It's They don't have a great big grandstand or anything like that, but it's quite a nice track. Take a folding chair and sit up on the spectator mounds and watch the racing. It's a good day out, but when you get a really big crowd there, like they had for the top fuelers when they returned there, it turned into a bit of a nightmare. But anyway,
even at experienced venues, it's hard to get people in and out when the top classes are there.
Yeah, well, I had that problem, I think, at the Bend as well. I mean, that's the Bend is becoming the de facto. The Bend Dragway is becoming the de facto Victorian track as well, and also for circuit racing, as we've got in the bottom of the bottom ticker. There's quite a few of the sort of local series, the BMW E30s, production sports cars. Quite a few of the Victorian categories are looking to go over and do a few rounds over at the Bend, because if they plan it right and if they run them early and all that, it's really it is sort of doable. You can if you leave it about sort of 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're home at midnight. So it's a long drive, but it's not ridiculously long. Yeah, Falcon DJ. Yeah, try doing 200 around the Thunderdome. That's the Thunderdome you can't race on. Although they are racing, I think Drive Events have got a couple of events coming up, but they usually put in a few chicanes here and there to try and slow things down and make it a little bit safer. But as Rowan said in his interview with us earlier this year, it's on the YouTube channel if you want to go have a look at it. A revival of the Thunderdome is not totally out of the question, but I think it should be. I think it'd be a complete waste of time, money, and energy to get that up and running again. I think they'd be much better. They'd be much better off served if they bulldozed it and turned the area there into a more traditional, clay speedway. That you could get a good crowd in there, and a bit of a sort of do a Knoxville thing with a bit of good bit of banking on it, and get the sprint cars in there on a regular basis. I reckon you'd get some pretty big crowds there. I think it'd be a great venue for regular speedway.
It could be instructional for Sydney.
Yeah, well, that's still they're still talking. They had a meeting about that in Sydney the other night. Now, the worrying thing about that is the people who have taken, it's actually Sydney Dragway who have taken up the lease apparently, and there is a fear amongst the speedway community that they will just pretty much ignore it and shut it down, because the drag racing guys were furious when they announced that they were building that speedway there. Because if you had a look at the time, there were a number of weekends or a number of nights where you had drag racing at Sydney Dragway and Speedway at the same time, and the drag guys are going, we do not want to be racing our cars with all that dust and clay blowing over onto the track. We're not keen on that at all. We would rather that they didn't race when we were out there. So now that they've got some say in the running of the thing, they can hopefully schedule it. But the speedway guys are there's so much politics in speedway racing. It's bad enough in drag racing. It's probably worse in speedway, where people are sort of going like, no, we're not going to deal with them because they're drag racing people and they don't know what they're talking about, and we want speedway people running speedway and we don't want drag racing people running speedway. But the feedback from the meeting was, in most cases, pretty encouraging. I think people sort of a few fears were put to rest, and hopefully we will see some racing there sooner rather than later. But there's still a lot of work to do because they made such a botch of designing that thing in the first place. I mean, there's no bloody drainage in the thing. I mean, they water the track and it stays wet for hours. But anyway, so we've got there. I think we've got everybody's there. In terms of my highlight for the year from motor racing, I would agree with Mark. And Le Mans was obviously spectacular. Looking there from a point of view of going somewhere. Once again, it was the Baskerville Historics. Just a fabulous meeting, the friendliest race meeting in Australia by far. Everybody just like great circuit. If you haven't been, if you haven't driven it, it is just a magnificent little track. It's 29 minutes, so just under half an hour from the centre of Hobart. Nice drive up, beautiful, great place to watch racing, great place to go racing. Just a terrific little venue, and the people who run it up there were just so friendly, and just everybody who went there was. I haven't heard a bad word said about it at all from anybody. So if you can get up there. In terms of next year, I mean, yes, coming up around here, Boxing Day, big day for Speedway. Boxing Day at Avalon, a part of the tradition. Not going to be able to get out there myself this year, of course, because I'm still. I was discussing with I had my first day of physical therapy today, and was discussing with the physio, like, when do you think I'll be behind the wheel again? And it was like, oh, it's going to be a long way. Might be an idea to put that car of yours up on blocks, I think. So, unfortunately, I'm not going. I'm not going. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere. Unfortunately, Jimmy's saying,
I'm so sorry for you, Brett.
There, so, but anyway, it could be worse. I thought it was at the start of the week. Jimmy saying it would work. You asked that they were doing to say that. Hang on, you're wrong about Thunderdome. It would work. You ask any that was doing it, say they wish it was still going. I think there's a lot of people who wish it was still going. I just can't see it. Those cars that ran there are all sort of 15, almost 20 years old now. They'd have to. A lot of them have gone. There's still a few of them out there. What would you run on the track again? And once again, it's the same problem they had at the start. If they'd have had a track, the original plan was, we were going to have a track in Melbourne. We were going to run on the speedway at AIR in Adelaide. There was going to be There's going to be a track built in Sydney. There was talk about them linking, putting a linking thing and turning Queensland Raceway into a sort of a semi-oval configuration, so they could run there as well. None of that ever happened. It was never going to happen. As soon as Bob pulled the money out, when he realised that it wasn't going anywhere, and he started to pull the ridiculous amounts of money he was paying. Because at one stage, I mean, you could race in. We were having a look at it. You could race in the HQs there, and if you finished 10th, you were taking home like $800 or $900 for sort of 10th place or something, and it was just not sustainable. But I mean, as Jared said, with supercars going to NASCAR, they could resurface it, but it would literally cost millions and millions of dollars. And join it to the national circuit, and that I don't think that when they did have them join to the national circuit, when they ran that World Touring Car Championship round there, I thought the racing was terrible. I really did. It was it's neither one thing nor the other. NASCAR is an American thing. Let's just, as far as I'm concerned, leave it there. We can watch it from here, and as I said, I think it would get much more use and be much more popular as a traditional speedway. Or even build another circuit in. I mean, you've got a Roval sort of at Charlotte. The basic design of the track was Charlotte. Turn it into a Roval and run some club racing there. You could have two circuits running. You could have something happening on the national circuit. You could have something at a smaller circuit. So TA2 and Trans Am similar to NASCAR. Yeah, I suppose you could run them there, but
the TA2 guys actually did a demo at Calder when they were down, and they weren't keen on based on. I mean, they loved going around and having their demo, but no, I don't think they were all that keen to go any further with it.
I just think if you're going to spend that sort of money out at Calder Park, Okay, and people, I know people disagree with me, but as I said to Bob Jane years ago when he said, "What would you do with the place?" I said, "Bob, it's a drag strip. It would be a very, very successful drag strip. It'll get very big crowds. Concentrate on that. Turn it into a drag strip. Okay, it's not going to get much. I mean, by all means, keep the national circuit. Do what you need. Spend the money to separate the national circuit from the drag strip. Run the drag strip. You'll get 15, 20,000 people plus to any sort of decent drag meet out at Calder. You'd be lucky. There's nothing they could possibly run on the circuit that's going to get any more than a couple of thousand people in terms of crowd through the gate. So, yeah, I'd definitely be. I'd just ignore the Thunderdome. I think it was a wonderful folly, and I love to go out there, and it was great racing, all the rest of it. But no, that era's gone. I think it's dead and buried, and let's think of it as pleasant memories and nothing more. Okay, let's. I think we're just about. We could wrap it up there, guys. We've had
Well, I
an
suppose
hour.
we should make mention of Oscar Piastri.
Of course.
Oh yeah. Whatever happened to him?
No, it's funny that little kid's done well.
Yeah, I used to watch him out at Oakley. Yeah, what's he doing nowadays?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's done very, very well. I think. Yeah, I mean, on Street Outlaws, a big event that was Waterburn, but that was it. Was a big event. They didn't get the crowds they were hoping for. They got reasonable crowds. Yeah, you could certainly do that, but I think there was some sanctioning problems. And if you talk to the guys, and we had the guys on the show, we had Murder Nova, and what was his name with the pink car? I forget the guy's name, but yeah, they came on and they had no time at all for Calder. They thought it was an absolute dump of a place. And there is some footage on one of their channels about them going around going, "Oh my God, this place looks like a bomb's hit it." Just it needs a lot of work. And if you're going to have a drag strip, have a proper drag strip where you can prepare it properly and have proper runoff areas. And have proper drag racing with proper drag racing cars with top fuel and funny cars. Drag racing is really going gangbusters at the moment with the national championship. They're getting big crowds everywhere they turn up. Now that the bend is there, the one piece of the puzzle that's missing is Victoria. That's the one place. That's the one place now. I mean, okay, Tassie has had a sort of decent drag strip for years, but if you just look at the mainland and where they're going to get the big crowds, there's a gaping hole in Victoria that really needs to be filled. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. I mean, it's good to see things back happening at Calder Park, and certainly they've got a big calendar of stuff already planned for 2024, and we'll certainly be out there for a lot of it, I hope. Speaking of 2024, I mean, now that a few things have been sorted out with my health, the plan is at the moment is to try and come back. We've certainly, as I said, 31 have certainly scheduled in pit lane to return in late February, early March. We're certainly back in. We're hoping that once again it does come down to sponsorship. It does come down to support. We've been so lucky in having the support of Roy Ellery and online events. Thank you to Roy. Without his support, also to all of you, to Mark and all the people who helped out on Patreon. The Patreon thing was a bit of a millstone around my neck sort of thing, but people still, I'm just, every now and again I get this thing saying, "Oh, hang on, there's some money popped into the account," and there have been times it's come in very, very handy. And as I said, for next year, now that I can concentrate on getting this shoulder done again. But the main thing is, if you didn't see some of the stuff from my personal Facebook page, the news on the skin cancer front is very good, and I should be I should be right for the well, at least for the short term. Who knows? I mean, I could walk out and get hit by lightning tomorrow. Let's face it, it's happened once before. But whatever happens, the plan is that we would really love to come back for another season of In Pit Lane in 2024. There will be something happening. Like I said last week, the brand will still be there. We'll still be doing stuff online, but from in terms of what we need the money for, in terms of what sort of gives me the real passion to do it, is very much doing a proper television show in a proper television studio with a whole bunch of really talented young people, and having the opportunity to do that every week is a huge honour. And I've just been so proud of everybody this year. It's been a wonderful, wonderful year in that respect. So, and as I said, without the support of Roy and Online Event, it simply couldn't have happened. So, if you're out there, if you know anybody in the motor racing or the car preparation area, and they're looking to get the advantage of prime time free-to-air television going right across Melbourne and Geelong. And we had this year we had over 400, all up we had over 400,000 people over the course of the year watched In Pit Lane on Channel 31. So that's when people say, oh, nobody watches Channel 31. Over 1 million people a month watch Channel 31. So there's still an awful lot of viewers out there watching, regularly watching. So as I said, if you would like to advertise on In Pit Lane to sponsor us for next year, please contact us direct. Do not, I repeat, do not go to Channel 31, because when you go to Channel 31, we do not see one solitary cent of that. I know a few people are saying, oh yeah, we advertise In Pit Lane's been really good. That's great for you. Does fuck all for us. So anyway, so as we say, well, drifters round the dome. Yeah, well, drifters are, and they're drifting. They do use the dome, the drifting guys, and they've had some really big meetings out there, and they'll certainly be out there for the year as well. Yes, to everybody, to Mad Cow Mark, once again, thanks for your support, Mark. Happy Christmas,
Merry
happy Christmas,
everyone.
Mark. Safe New Year. I think that's probably the main thing to come out of it. Let's have a safe and prosperous New Year. There we are. Yes, Russell Clark. Thank you, Russell, for your support as well. I've got to look away because I can't use this arm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's frightening. Box pointing out it's only 95 days until the Australian Grand Prix, which means it's probably, in theory, about 80 days to the first episode of In Pit Lane if we get back. But thank you for your support as well, Box, and everybody who joins us. Thanks to Dave Stillwell for joining us, and also Stuart Fairweather. Anybody who's joined us in on Full Course Yellow, of course, Craig Doc Gladagau. Doc was here. Doc was here early in the week, and absolutely turned the place upside down. But I've got the lawns are mowed, and I can the hole that caused the problem, that caused the trip, has now been finally filled in. So thankfully, I'm not going to be doing that again. I've got to find another more creative way of injuring myself in future. But anyway, thank you.
Send you a list.
No, I don't need one.
Don't give him suggestions.
Yeah, I think that's yes, Paul. Yes, and well done for all you do for the sport too, Paul. I mean, Paul is very. If he's not at cars, he's at bikes. If he's not at circuit, he's at speedway. Go out and do some local speedway and some local drag racing over the summer if you can get there, because you'll have a fabulous day out. And hopefully we'll be back sometime in the new year. Certainly take most of January off, but keep an eye out. There'll be stuff going. There will be stuff going up on the YouTube channel and also on the Facebook page over the Christmas New Year break as well. Some best ofs, some stuff I just haven't had time to cut together. Now that I'm starting to get some use out of this side, I can start doing start editing again. I did a little bit before, and with the new opening, and it's holding up quite well. So, okay, everybody, we'll see you. Have a great Christmas, a terrific New Year. We will see you in 2024, both on In Pit Lane and Full Course Yellow. But until then, from all of us here, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your support. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.